Pathmonk is the AI for website conversions. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in the buying journey separates you from the competition online. Pathmonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50% by adding Pathmonk to your website in seconds, letting the AI do all the work and increase conversions while you keep doing marketing as usual. Check us out on pathmonk.com. Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Pathmonk Presents. Today we're joined by Tim McLain. He's a veteran of marketing. Tim, we were talking about it offline, but I'll let you do the intro yourself. Tim is the director of marketing at RepSpark, and I'm super excited to talk to him today. We're gonna touch on a few things. We're gonna touch on RepSpark, obviously. We're gonna touch on growth and marketing, and then we're gonna get to know Tim a little bit more in depth. And apparently, we're gonna know more about what he's reading. So stay tuned, and Tim, please take it away.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for letting me chime in here. I think it's an interesting time to have this kind of a conversation when, I've been doing marketing now for 35 years. I was literally sitting at my desk when the first web browser literally came online, the first website software. I remember making a web page and showing my boss and saying, "Hey, I made a website for for our company." He goes, "What's a website?" All the way till today, where I think I have the same sort of feeling of the hair on the back of my neck standing up the first time I really leaned into ChatGPT. So it's been a wild ride over the last 35 years, and there's so much to talk about. And I love, your software, all the other available software out there that's helping us be better marketers, especially in the B2B space, has all really changed in the last 18 to 24 months in a fundamental way. So I'm really excited to sort of talk about, the different things that we're doing to get in front of our B2B buyers at RepSpark.
Absolutely, Tim. Thanks for the intro. That was amazing, and giving us the overview, of where you started and your first website. It sounds super exciting just to be in that place. I remember when I coded my first website. That
Yeah.
was a while back too. It was like, this is crazy,
Yeah.
right? But
Right.
let's start with the basics, Tim. What's the big idea behind Rex Park? If you can let us know. Let's say if you were explaining this to a friend over coffee, right? How would you describe what you do?
Yeah, I'm glad you phrased it that way because I sort of have like seven different pitches that I have. We're getting ready to go to some big trade shows, so I've been practicing. But I would say to somebody who isn't in our space, I think it's really easy to say that RepSpark really is an online platform that helps brands sell their products to stores without all the chaos. So what does that mean? Well, you think about companies out there that sell high-end clothing, shoes, golf gear or outdoor products, they don't just sell online to consumers, right? We've all probably heard the term D2C or direct to consumer. They also have another channel where they sell in bulk to thousands of retail stores. So, and that process of doing that is really messy at most companies. So orders come in through emails, spreadsheets, PDFs, phone calls, outdated portals. They have sales teams, they have operations teams that work with these retailers, and those folks end up having to re-enter the same order, potentially multiple times. Inventory tends to be a really big problem where they just get it wrong. Like, a retailer orders 10 large shirts and they only have 8 in the warehouse. What are they going to do? And it just, mistakes are super common. So the great news is that RepSpark has been around for the last 18 years, and we replace all of that with just one digital system. So it gives brands a really clean place where their sales reps and retail customers can see all the available products. They can check real-time inventory. They then can place orders, multi-date orders in a lot of cases from multiple warehouses, and then track everything in one spot. So orders just flow directly into the brand's internal systems. So fewer people have to touch them, and there are almost zero errors. So the real value of RepSpark isn't just speed, it's really clarity because the sales reps that are talking to the retailers, they know what they can actually sell. Retailers know exactly what they're ordering. The operations teams can stop firefighting, and the leaders of the brands can finally see what's happening across their entire wholesale business. without any guessing. So many people on the podcast they're listening probably have heard of Shopify, but if Shopify helped small businesses sell to consumers online, RepSpark is the next evolution where we do something similar, but it's for brands selling to other businesses, and it's just built for the real world complexity of wholesale B2B. That's RepSpark.
Mhm. Okay, thanks for that. That's
Sure.
yeah. In a nutshell, that was really interesting to kind of get an idea, and I'm sure you practiced this a few times because
Yes.
that was really
Yeah.
concise and you got to the point. I'm just curious, are there certain types of businesses that you're talking about or industries even where you feel your this product really shines and is there maybe a key problem? You talked about spreadsheets that like
Right.
chaos, right? Is there a key
Yep.
problem that you help them solve when they come to you?
Yep. I think the key problem that I hear when I get on our customer calls is they come to us because they've encountered an issue that's very sticky, which I mentioned earlier. It's about inventory just plain being wrong, and that there's no visibility into that. So, direct to consumer is a lot easier. You can control that through Shopify, for instance, and they know when a certain number of shirts or pants or whatever it is are sold out. It says sold out on the website. The challenge is when you switch away from something like Shopify to find a wholesale platform that powers the same thing for retailers. Imagine having 20 different stores logged into the same platform. They're placing multi-date orders. There's a new line that just came out. I need a whole set of different sizes for men's and women's and all these other different products. And the challenge for the brand is D2C is actually a much simpler channel to start in. But as soon as you pivot over to B2B, the inventory problem gets exacerbated. And there's no quicker way to have your brand be kind of ejected from a retailer. Then every time I place an order with them, they're missing three, four, five, six, seven pieces, right? Like they're ordering in bulk to multiple retail stores in many cases, or maybe just one specialty shop. So just solving for that one inventory issue is super important to the brands, as well as everything else that we do, which is giving the sales reps a portal to log into where they can literally, like we see it all the time, where the sales rep will be literally have their laptop open. They'll be sitting with a retailer at a specialty shop and say, "Hey, you should, buy some, additional merchandise from Peter Millar. Let's go right into Peter Millar. Here's their spring line. Let's order a whole bunch of stuff and send it to your store, and we're going to break it up into 3 shipments." That's all very simply done with our platform. So yeah, that's the main problems we solve for. It's inventory control, it's giving sales reps tools, and just the brand can literally see at an instant, what are all the reps doing? What are all the retailers that have placed orders recently? What are the different pieces that are trending well? All that data just comes to them on a silver platter. They don't have to make their own system. By the way, most brands start by making their own. And they
Mhm.
very quickly realize that they have to hire multiple people to maintain that platform. It gets outdated very quickly. And the good news is that across, you mentioned what industries do we serve, right? So we're really known as the number one wholesale platform for golf brands. So any sort of high end, sort of luxury apparel brand, anybody in golf. We just got back from the PGA show in Orlando to kick off
Mhm.
2026, and it's almost 45% of the floor they're already using this. So golf is an easy. That's where we started. We also are growing into what we call outdoor lifestyle. So you think of the 511 tacticals, anybody who has sort of an apparel or even hard goods now increasingly, they can use us as this tool to get into the dealers on the outdoor lifestyle side or the retailers on the golf side, to give them that tool to take their available inventory, pictures, catalogs, digitize everything, make it easily and seamlessly available to their retailers and their sales reps, and make sure that that visibility is there. So yeah, I think that really encapsulates it well. By the way, we're also big in surf and swim. We actually started the company in surf and swim. We were sort of spun out of a brand called L Space that many people might recognize. So we have surf and swim brands, golf brands like you wouldn't believe, all the biggest ones you've ever heard of, and then growing into outdoor lifestyle, which is sort of tactical, gear, those kinds of industries.
Cool. Well, it's nice to yeah, just understand really how you started from one, let's say, maybe you can call it a niche, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
in a way, but now
Yes.
you're expanding to different kinds of brands, adjacent,
Right.
I would say, at that,
Yes. Yeah.
but also going into, the broader kind of category of fashion apparel, different kinds of
Right.
things. So it's
I
pretty
should say
cool.
too. Yeah, by
Yeah,
the
go
way,
ahead.
I apologize for interrupting, but I would say that the tool, as you can hear it, definitely works in other industries. So we're always on the lookout for other industries that have a large sort of a sales rep component. If you have five, six, seven sales reps, this would work for you that are trying to break into wholesale, or ideally are already doing wholesale but need a tool to basically give their sales reps the ability to have the visibility, but then also the retailer is a tool to be able to place orders against your real-time inventory. So we actually work in a bunch of other industries in a much, in a smaller quantity way, but the tool itself works across other industries as well.
Got it. Okay. And I guess in a way you're trying to give a spark to those reps, right?
Yeah,
See what I
exactly.
did
Well
there?
done. There you go. There you go.
All right, all
I appreciate it.
right. So, Tim, from your experience, right? So we're talking about different types of customers and how essentially they get to you. I would assume,
Yeah,
I'm assuming here, right? So
right.
maybe your website plays a big role in pulling in more of
It does.
those brands, right? So
Right.
on that note, from your experience, what do you think? And you can draw from your overall experience. I know you're with RepSpark at the moment, but you've been doing
Yeah.
marketing for more than 10 years now. So,
Right.
what
Yep.
actually makes a website convert? Because our audience will always on the lookout for, let's say, a tool stack, tech stack, tactics, or frameworks even
Right.
to be able to increase the conversions. And of course, we can help them with that. But with
Yep.
that aside, what's worked for you, and what do you recommend people focus on to actually convert more when it comes to the website?
Yeah, the website continues to be our primary, source of inbound deals, right? So what's interesting though is as we think of the context of 2026, what does it take to get the right people to connect to your website, right? I mean, look, we're all probably doing the same things. Like we love HubSpot here at RepSpark. In fact, we use it for the entirety of the company, not just the marketing piece. In fact, I recommend to any B2B marketer that is at a smaller company that might be thinking about an ERP or a CRM. HubSpot, I think, has a lock on this market, and I love that they're continuing to grow up and to the right. There's a reason for it. Don't be afraid of them. If you haven't evaluated them, I'm not trying to sell you HubSpot. Maybe I am, but I love it that we actually use it as our ecosystem for the entirety of RepSpark. But that aside, obviously, my team spends all of our time in the marketing side of HubSpot. Um, and we actually did build our website in HubSpot, which 10 years ago, I'd say you're crazy to put your website on HubSpot because then they got you. They'll never let you go. But I have now been here long enough to see the value of why doing that is fine. Their website builder is amazing, as well as, of course, their email tools are incredible. So, yes, we have taken our time to really understand our TAM, our total addressable market. We've used Seamless to enrich all of them. They're all inside of HubSpot. And now we've got multiple campaigns, sequences for the sales guys and workflows on the marketing side running to warm up those folks across all the industries that we serve. So I'm a still big believer. I'm a big believer in email. I'm a big believer in treating your domain health seriously, making sure you're doing the right things, that you're not overwhelming people. I found, by the way, the magic number is a person on my list should never get more than 4 emails a month. I would recommend everybody in B2B don't go beyond four, or otherwise you're going to wear out your domain. Make sure they can always unsubscribe. These are basic things, guys, but I just want to be real.
Mhm.
And I know what happens is that the right content I'm building in there, like we've built an ROI calculator, we've built a custom brand report. Imagine being able to make a custom one-page flyer for your business using AI. We've got that built. Um, those are part of our sequences. So we've got the right, really good content for these brands, these B2B, larger brands, right? So the emails are dripping out and they're all going to end up on our website. The website's in HubSpot. So my sales team, my marketing guys, they see real-time activity on the website. And we were also able to embed, when I first got here, an AI chatbot on the website. And that has produced some amazing output. I'm amazed at how long somebody at a big company is willing to spend with a chatbot. As long as it's giving you the right information, why wouldn't you want to spend time with it? But we actually used a tool called salespeak.ai. There's only one S in the middle, salespeak.ai. Anyway, very easy to get up and running. You can get up to, I think it's 30 interactions with your bot completely free. I highly recommend them. It's easy to load your content into it, and then it'll create a set of questions and answers. You can use their simulator to ping it, make sure it's answering the questions perfectly. Then you embed it and you watch people come to the site. It unmasks website visitors and it gives them a way. The tool will actually prompt them with questions to continue the interaction. I nothing but great things to say about SalesSpeak. By the way, I also work with them to embed our ROI calculator and our brand report builder into SalesSpeak so that literally it'll create these one-page PDFs to help them calculate their ROI of using RepSpark, as well as, how does your brand work well with RepSpark? What problems do we solve for you? So that's one of the biggest innovations is you have to have a good website with all of your services listed with a great blog that you're adding. I would recommend at least 4 posts to a month. You need to be making sure all that's properly indexed by Google. Yes, you have to spend time on SEO. You have to make sure that you're, using the right keywords. Use things like SEMrush to make sure you understand what keywords you're showing up for against your competitors. What's your share of voice against those? But let's take it to the next level. SalesSpeak, I think, was only the first innovation that we added to the site to give people a bot to ask questions. But let's talk about LLMs. I think this is the first year going into 2026 that as a B2B marketer, you need to understand how you are or are not visible on the LLMs. We're talking about ChatGPT, Claude, we have Perplexity. I found a great tool called Get Visto that allows me to literally run a brand report, and it literally shows me what's my share of voice on the top 5 LLMs versus my 2 top competitors, who will remain nameless for the purposes of the podcast. But what was great was I was able to hand this tool and this data to my content manager and say, Eric, here's a list of all the questions that people are asking about B2B wholesale e-commerce on the LLMs. We're only showing up less than 2% of the time for these questions. I need you to find a way to have us break in and unseat our top competitors. And we actually went into HubSpot, and one of our templates was a pillar page creator. I hope if people don't know what a pillar page is, imagine a page that simply has a bunch of questions and answers, and you make it about a central theme. And you really want the text to be, 600 to 800 words, no more than that, because that's what the LLMs will ingest. And if you can use a tool, and by the way, SalesSpeak also has this built in now, but it doesn't work with HubSpot quite yet. That's why I got Get Visto. And in less than 3 months, Eric was able to create, I think it was 26 pillar pages, 26. We went from 3% to 26% share of voice on the LLMs. This, guys, is the next generation of B2B marketing in 2026. Look, there's a lot of tools that will tell you, they can show you how you're showing up on the LLMs, because finally those signals are recordable and monitorable. That's not even a word. Let's make it a word. But if I'm a B2B marketer today, I highly recommend that you continue to do the things you're doing for search engine optimization, but now you need to think about GEO. GEO is the acronym, which is how you're showing up on the LLMs, and start making pillar page content with questions and answers. By the way, both the standalone pages that I like to call them Google food. You need that Google food to feed it over time. We publish 2 of those a week. So great questions and answers. We see what the questions are that we're lacking, that we're not showing up well against our competitors. And then we just watch those metrics, go up and to the right. That's really what I really recommend people really focus on, along with all the basic things that we're doing. Like I just mentioned, we just got back from 2 massive trade shows. The PGA show in Orlando was fantastic. We also went to the SHOT Show in Las Vegas. Yeah. You still have to have a sales team that does the face-to-face interactions, especially with the bigger brands that you're selling to. The face-to-face cannot be replaced. I love that trade shows are finally back. I feel like the pandemic didn't do us any good service on the B2B side because we couldn't see each other. It was great to be back in Vegas. It's the first time I've been back in Vegas since 2020. So anyway, I know I said a lot there, guys, but you really need to look into these LLM analyzers. You need an AI bot on your website, and you need to be monitoring it, I would say daily, to see how they're being used and what information is being provided. And the good news is that AI makes it super easy to create these new content flows, and you get to monitor them and edit them in real time. It's a great time to be a marketer. Like I said, I started 30 years ago now, just over 30 years ago. I first was marketing for a newsletter. We literally sent out envelopes to
Yeah.
people and said, send us $50, we'll send you a newsletter. And we made money that way. But that was, 92, 93. I don't know. I don't have any magazines. Do you have any magazines anymore? I don't.
I
Uh,
don't know.
no. And unfortunately, I don't have a print newspaper either. I was a journalist for 4 years. I missed my newspaper in the morning. But nowadays, as B2B marketers, just the LLMs are important. And by the way, I just want to leave one thing. I know there's a lot here, but Google is still vitally important because we know when you ask a question of an LLM, it's going to go to Google and it's going to use that as one of its sources. The key thing, though, is that they've reduced the amount of content that they're able to pull from Google. Google limits that. I think it's the top 15 results now. It used to be the top 100. So these
Mm.
LLMs were really benefiting when they first opened up access to the search engines, to getting a ton of information, and smaller companies could live in the long tail. Well, you can't anymore. You still have to rank pretty high to make sure that you're showing up. But the good news is the new long tail is getting data from the LLMs and what questions people are asking about your product or service, and then developing those questions and answers on these pillar pages that you can answer to really go after your competition and unseat them. Because between you and me, our competitors they're losing ground to us every single day because they're not paying attention to this, which is great for me. I know that's not going to last forever, but in the meantime, I got to keep this going and make this content and make sure that the LLMs are saying RepSpark as often as they can.
Right. Well, Tim, I gotta tell you, I gotta go back to this and take notes because there
Okay.
was so much gold in there that's
Yeah.
not only I appreciate, but I'm sure our audience will eat right up. So thanks for
Sure.
that. We'll
Yeah.
we'll take note of the tools and just overall the your thinking around marketing these days and more so now that it's relevant to LLMs and the way you see it going. So I truly appreciate that.
Yeah.
That was really good, and thanks for sharing that. Now
Sure.
we're into the back half of our time together of our episode here, Tim. So I'd like to switch gears for a second and talk about you. I've
Sure.
got a few questions I'd like to shoot over, and essentially the way we'll do this, if you don't mind, is going to be a more rapid fire style. So.
Yeah.
Why don't we start with a day in the life? What are the main three things that you focus on when you go to work every day?
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I would say, one of the things I love about RevSpark is that I'm sitting here in our office here in Durham, North Carolina right now, and I'm literally sitting in a room with our new go-to-market engineer, which is a new role for us that's really focused on the AI pieces and the HubSpot connective pieces. So I get to work with him, and then I could turn around and talk to Nate, who's one of our senior product managers who's working with our top brands. And I turn a little bit more to my right, and there's Alex Leedy, who's my head of sales. So we're all in a war room together, all fighting the same. It's not a battle. It's well, maybe it is. I don't know, but we literally have access to each other face to face, which is great. Again, post pandemic, it's fantastic. So I come in the morning. I already have three ideas I want to run past Alex to really help his account executives, you know, get in front of our big brands in a more cohesive way with maybe a slightly different message. We have a new version of our software called Flow that just came out. So we're still kind of working through how they're messaging that. But then I can turn and actually I can get real time feedback from Nate, who's working with some of our top brands. And then Matt can help me operationalize it. So for me, it's very sort of, you say rapid fire, it's rapid fire here too, where we all have our roles, we're all doing the right things, but we're able to make adjustments very quickly. And we have the tool set and the technology and the people to really attack this in a cohesive way. So I love to be super collaborative, and we all work very, very well together. So
Nice, nice. I love it.
yeah.
What's the type of content that you rather consume? Is it more reading, or format rather, right? So is it
Yes.
reading, watching, or listening to things?
I think it's a combination of watching and listening. It's funny. My wife is a librarian by trade, and it took her years to sort of. It's not a habit, but she used to, she'd always have a book open in front of her. And I think it's maybe been about 10 years since she, got her Kindle. She loves her
Mm.
Kindle, and I finally got her to start listening to audiobooks, which it was really hard to get her to do that. For me, like when I commute, I have a podcast on, I have an audiobook on. Um, I prefer listening and then watching. And I feel like the digital space has definitely forced me to make that change because I don't know about you. When I open up a book like this, I'm like, I don't know, just that whole dimension of reading, unfortunately, has diminished in this older brain. But coming up through school, I used to, I was very used to having a book open and a physical notebook and writing
Yeah.
things. I still do that, but I would say like I would much rather listen and watch content
Okay.
as
Got
a
it.
at this point.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, what's the latest piece of content that maybe you watched or listened to that you picked up, and was there a specific gem that that really stuck with you in it?
Do you mean like sort of work related or
Doesn't have to
just
be,
general?
right? So, yeah, feel free to.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, look, we started this year in this country in a really sort of fraught way. There's a lot of things going on in the world, and I really for Christmas I actually got a copy of Walking with the Wind, which is a memoir of John Lewis's civil rights movement, and
Mm.
that really speaks to me about making sure that where we are as a country, just how do we fight for the rights and make sure that we all just we've got a complicated country. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So for me, it was just very emotional, sort of hearing the stories about the folks that were just fighting for their basic rights, and I feel like we're going through that in real time in other ways, unfortunately, right now. So listening, to that audiobook is just is very moving to me, and I feel like I don't know about you, but I feel like I don't know that I know enough about the different historical pieces as I should as a 55-year-old citizen of the United States. So I feel like I'm sort of going back. I've read a lot of presidential biographies recently, and now I'm going back through some other sort of more topical books. So that's been kind of a joy and an eye-opening experience for me to understand what I don't know and just, being more empathetic and understanding, some of the things that have gone on here in the US in particular.
Got it. Okay, that's interesting. So, if you have any biographies that you can recommend, please, even offline, please send them
Yes,
over. I'm a big fan. Um,
great.
so one quick question about
Yeah,
your workflow, right? What's one repetitive
right.
task that you love to put on autopilot forever?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like the AI bot on our website has done such a great job of automating those basic emails that I used to have to answer manually. Like, great example is half of our traffic going to our website are retailers that are just trying to get access to our brands at RepSpark, and they're constantly asking, like, how do I get access to, I mentioned, Peter Millar or 511 Tactical or, Ola Kai, like, how do I get access to these brands? And those would just come through the website. We were just clogging, sort of the inbound mailboxes with basic questions. And now the bot has done such a great job of, I'm able to train it, right, to answer those questions perfectly every time. And I would say every day we probably get 6 or 7 retailers that are asking us those very basic questions that I don't have to answer anymore. Um, and by the same token, we have brands that come in and ask us very basic questions about how they can get involved with us. So I feel like most of the repetitive tasks have already been done. What I found interesting is that when I was looking back at my marketing functions, I wanted to automate a lot of the steps in my sales reps communicating with prospect brands. And we actually went through the process of automating some of those steps. And the more that I watched what content was coming out, these AI tools, everybody thinks that they have to use AI to automate everything. We don't automate the actual content generation. We may automate the steps of sort of subject and content and give our sales reps the content they need to answer the questions, but them sort of putting it through their filter, what they know about the company, and then putting it into a sequence is working a lot better for us. So it's interesting. I spend a lot of time in ChatGPT and Gemini in particular. Um, but I'm very careful never to just use that stuff as is. Like it has to go through a couple major filters. But that has been sort of a revelation to me. Like I don't know about you, but I remember a time not that long ago when I didn't feel right about using AI to do this work because you're like, oh, kids are using it to write their term papers, they're cheating. It's like, nah, hold on, with the advent of ChatGPT 5.0 and some other tools and Perplexity, like I almost couldn't do my job without AI now
Yeah.
because it's sped everything up. And what's coming out of it is they're not hallucinating like they used to. And but it still means we still have to put it through a filter. I don't know what I'm trying to say, except there are new tools that are available finally that are really speeding up my ability to impact the business. And I think anybody who's been afraid of using AI, like now's the time to just put that aside and find ways to use it and create tools with it and experiment with it. And
Yeah.
now's the year. And by the way, that's part of what our new RepSpark Flow software release includes is our first ever AI tool. And I don't think anybody would be surprised that we're not trying to over engineer AI into our platform. I think a lot of companies have made that mistake and wasted a lot of time and money. What we're doing, for instance, the very first AI feature that we're offering, they're called order insights. So imagine if you're a brand and you come in the morning, like their operations team, and they pull up a list of all of their open orders. They may have literally hundreds of orders that came in overnight. Instead of just seeing a list of, say, 100 orders, now there's five really pithy bullet points at the very top. Because what happens, they don't see this, but when that page loads now, it runs it runs a prompt that will pull in that data, and this is very native into our system. None of that data is shared externally. It's all secure, and it literally will take all the orders and say, "Oh, you have six orders in here from this dealer, but it's missing this element of the order. You should reach out to them." And then there's your total orders is this. There's like six or seven really hands-on things that you as the ops person needs to know about your orders that you would have had to spend half an hour, 45 minutes manually going through them to say, oh, wait a minute. Didn't I just see an order from that company? Oh, wait, from that retailer? Oh, there's three more. There's four more. Like these are wrong. Like we've taken that off their plate now. And that's how you're going to see AI be used inside of RepSpark going forward this year. I think we have 8 additional AI features coming, but it's just being really smart about offering insights that only AI can see based on a large
Mhm.
volume of data. So we're excited to be very thoughtful and careful about how we're rolling out AI inside of our platform, as well as how we're using it, to go to market.
Of course. Yeah. Again, go back to AI and just the way it's being used everywhere, right? And I like your
Yeah,
point about not being afraid of using
right,
it for the right reasons and just speed up your workflow. Really, I think
right.
a lot of people out there are still afraid, and I think that's a good message
Yeah.
you're sending out there.
Yeah,
Um,
actually, I'm sorry. Can I add one more
yeah,
story?
go ahead.
So I thought the audience might find this interesting. So those of you out there who are using HubSpot, I know a lot of you are. HubSpot has their own Breeze. It's called. That's their internal AI, and it hasn't. What am I going to say? I haven't used it enough to really judge it, but I found that it was really good at servicing very basic things. But I wanted to give an example. Yesterday, I ran a report inside of HubSpot for all the brands that ever interacted with RepSpark, but they decided to go with a competitor. And the good news is my sales guys were pretty good about adding notes to all of those deals when they lost them about why the brands chose a competitor. So for the first time ever, I challenged Breeze and I literally pulled a report and I checked the boxes next to all those deals that we lost last year. And I said, Breeze, write me a summary of what are the top reasons why we lost these deals, like what features is RepSpark missing that our competitors have that we don't, and what was the general sentiment, blah blah blah. I wrote a very simple English language prompt, and what came back was astonishing. Like it literally, I could watch it say, okay, evaluating 100 and whatever companies, reading the notes, blah blah blah, creating report, and the report that came out was absolute gold that I immediately copied and pasted into a document, cleaned up, and gave to my CEO because we just had an exec meeting on site, and we had a huge discussion as an exec team based on their Breeze AI giving me the data I needed to bring those pieces of data back to my
Wow.
product and my management team. So that's how I think people should not be afraid of using AI to do those kinds of things. Obviously, you don't want to be giving internal private information to the LLMs. You need to be careful. But in this case, because it's all inside a HubSpot, you're safe. So again, highly recommend people play with Breeze the first chance they get.
Okay, thanks for that. That's another good one.
Sure.
Tim,
Yeah.
I want to thank you a lot for being on the show with us today. As we wrap things up, I also want to give you the last word. So, if someone
Yeah.
forgets everything about the interview today, what is the one thing that they should remember about the work you guys are doing at RepSpark?
Yeah, I'd say, look, if you're a brand that's trying to sell through wholesale to retailers, you need to check out RepSpark, right? We have this incredible tool with a great group of programmers that can customize it to your unique situation. And whether you choose to give, retailers access to your back end or just your sales reps to directly place orders, we have a solution that's grown tremendously over the last 18 years. We're using AI in really fantastic new ways. And I highly recommend it again if you're a brand selling into wholesale and have a B2B channel with sales reps. RepSpark should be first on your list to consider in 2026 and beyond.
There you go, then. Tim, thanks again for all the value, all the insights, all the experience that you share with us, and we hope to do this again soon, maybe in the next
Yeah,
few months, so we know how flow is going and
sure.
how things are growing really. But in the meantime, thanks again for being with us today, and I wish you a wonderful day ahead.
You're welcome. You too. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks. Bye.